Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Krown Countdown U. The conference finals were exciting, but before we get to that, let's introduce our panelists, Gord in Vancouver and Justin in Toronto. Now it's time to go to the national highlight reel with Andrew Wadden, and those were fantastic finals across the board in the home and native land, Andrew.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Jim. This weekend is proving to be must-see television each and every year. So let's start with the Yates Cup, which was a thriller. First series of the game, Western puts points on the board. Alex Taylor from 12 yards out. And just like that, it's 7-0 for the Mustangs. Fast forward to the second cue, Jayhawks down by 7 until this.
Handing off to Lavondre Gordon. Gordon getting outside. He's got daylight. Gordon in a foot race with Nick Bannon. Lavondre Gordon, touchdown! 42 yards off tackle. And the home run hitter.
Mark Lee with the fantastic call. Gordon hits the homer, knotting this one up at 13. Laurier kicker Nathan Mesher would hit consecutive field goals from 18 and 27 yards out to put the Jayhawks up by 6 at the break. Second half, Western comes out swinging.
Pitch passes high to Harry McMaster. He breaks the tackle, heads downfield. McMaster with daylight. He won't be caught. Touchdown!
That tally from McMaster capped a 28-0 run from the Mustangs to open the half. But Laurier wasn't quite dead yet. In the final cue, Jayhawks pivot Michael Neville played the role of the Messiah, rising his team from the grave. He hits Brenton Hall from 29 yards out for the major. Under 3 minutes to go, Neville over the middle to Carson Ouellette. He goes house. What the blank is going on here? Jayhawks down by just one score. Minutes later, the Laurier D steps up. Nakis Onyeka forces the fumble. Jayhawks pounce on the leather right at the Stangs' doorstep. Neville then hits KCU favorite Curly Gittins Jr. or the major. We got a tie ball game. Unreal. 1 second to go in the game now. Laurier within field goal distance for Mesher. And take it away, Mr. Lee.
Of the Yates Cup. Ball is out, down, kicked, and good! The Laurier Golden Hawks come from behind in dramatic fashion to win the 109th Yates Cup.
Jayhawks, oh my, in dramatic fashion. What a game. They take it. They're off to the National Center. To Montreal we head next. Dunsmore Cup rematch part 3 between the Rouge et Or and the Carabins. This was your usual seesaw battle between these bitter rivals. Carabins up 6-0 through the first cue, but Jonathan Breton Roberts scored the game's first major from Hugo Richard. Laval added a field goal, and we hit the break with the Red Machine up by 4. Second half, the teams traded Rouges, but then Pierre-Luc Parigi in for the injured Sam Caron, hits the deep ball to Guillaume Paquette. What a catch! He goes house! Carabins regain the lead. Straight to the final minute of the game, Laval down by 4, and a touch of pure trickery right here, folks, results in the game-winning TD. Breton Roberts to Richard. What did we just witness? Laval wins the Dunsmore Cup once again with a stunning last-second win. How good were both of those games? Hopefully that excitement will spill over to this one. Laval hosting Laurier in the UTEC Bowl. The Rouge et Or back in the national semifinals for the first time in 3 years. Well, it's been 11 years for the long-suffering Laurier fans. Over to Atlantic Canada we go next. St. FX Mount Allison playing for the Jewett Trophy for a second consecutive year. This one, though, was all X-Men. Chris Ridley scored 2 majors in the first half as X took a 17-point lead into halftime. Second half, more points for X. Kicker Jonathan Heidebrecht scoring all of St. FX 9 points in the half. The X-Men are AUS champs for a second straight year, easily getting past the Mountains. Just who would the X-Men get to face in the Mitchell Bowl? Let's saddle up into Cowtown, where it was a rematch of last year's Hardy Cup T-Birds and Dinos. The Prehistorics in this game for a 9th consecutive year, looking for a 7th win over that span. That's some Laval-type stuff. I meant to say stuff. Okay, first cue, CGY, already ahead 8-zip, Adam Sinagra to Dallas both. Remember him from last week? 39 yards out. That's another 7. The lead grows to 15, and it's just the first quarter. Second cue, Birds pivot. Michael O'Connor shows a side we don't see much out of him. He rushes this one 22 yards to the house. UBC is on the board. It's 15-7. Next, Birds possession. O'Connor gets lit, fumbles the leather. Jacob Jakubek says thank you. 20 yards later, he's in for 6, and the home side lead grows back to 15. Right before the half, T-Birds put 3 on the board, but this 14-yard major from Brandon Thera put the Dinos ahead by 26 going into the recess. Second half, the Birds, they find some life. Late in the third cue, the goal line score from Corey Nagata caps a 10-play, 68-yard drive. Calgary's next series, the Thunderbirds strike again.
Second and 10. Sinagra throws and it's intercepted. Riley Jones, reservation for 6.
In the words of the infamous Harry Carey, holy cow. Lead cut to 10, heading to the final 15. Both sides traded field goals to start the cue, but then the Birds defense stepped up once again. Tremont Levy forces the fumble and recovers it for the turnover deep in the Dino zone. 2 plays later, Ben Cummings puts it in. It's now a 3-point game. But the Dinos didn't fold like one of Jim Mullen's cheap suits. Oh no, Sinagra took control. Very next Calgary series, the Rook connects with Whitman to Muziak for a 45-yard pickup. Then it's back to both for a pickup of 18. 2 plays later, Jesserin Antwi caps the drive from 4 yards out. Lead back to 10, but the T-Birds continue to fight. O'Connor connects on 6 consecutive passes. Travell Pinto hauling in 4 of those, bringing UBC right to the goal line. Cummings once again caps off the drive. Lead back down to 3 with just over 2 minutes to go. UBC's D forces the Dinos offense off the field, setting up one last drive for O'Connor and company on 2nd and 10 from his own 42. Well, take it away, Mr. Mullen.
Connor has protection, throws in the direction of David Mann. Does he catch it? Yes or no? Calgary saying no. The question is, did he survive contact? They're going to have a conversation and then finally decide that he didn't. That's a catch.
If the ground
That's a catch.
held that up or not, but as you can see, it looked like his elbow was under the ball.
That is a completely missed call at a critical point of the game.
Why don't you tell us how you really feel there, Jimmy? Call it what you want. The Stripes called what they saw, and that was it for the T-Birds. Calgary takes the Hardy Cup for a 7th time over the last 9 years, eking out a 3-point win. All right, so there you have it. Mitchell Bowl is now set. Calgary will play host to St. FX this weekend at McMahon Stadium. Sportsnet 360 has got that one for you.
Extra, extra, read all about it.
Yes, the Paperboy tells us what's up. It is time for headlines. Headline number 1 goes to Justin Dunk. And Justin, was that a fantastic comeback by Laurier or a complete collapse by Western?
It was all about the Golden Hawks. I think full credit needs to go to Mike Falds' group there for the comeback. Yes, there were some plays in particular, that reverse that Alex Taylor fumbled when he was trying to pitch it to Miles Rombo, that will be dissected for a while there down in London. But Laurier was full value for this comeback victory. 4 third-down conversions, 2 third-down touchdown passes by Michael Neville, and another rush on 3rd and 4 that kept this comeback alive. It was epic. It was awesome. It was all kinds of good, and exactly what U Sports football is all about. Full credit to the Golden Hawks.
I don't want to take any credit away from the Golden Hawks. It's a huge victory, and I was thoroughly impressed with what I saw from Michael Neville in particular and Curly Gittins Jr. in particular, as well as that defense. But on the other side of the ball, this has got to be characterized as a Western collapse. Twice on that final drive, not even the reverse itself. That was the second time they put the ball on the ground in a situation where the only thing that they had to do was not put the ball on the ground. They choked in crunch time, and it's not just the players on the field, it's also the Western coaching staff who had absolutely no answers in this game when the tide started to turn. This was an unfortunate ending for Western throughout, and to be honest, it makes Coach Greg Marshall's future a little bit interesting at that school because he still has failed to get over the top since he's been at Western, Justin.
There's no way that Greg Marshall is going to be in any job trouble down there in Western. Let me tell you, he's safe there. But I'm with you. You know, that call, especially the reverse call, I'm sure will keep him up late at night.
The UBC Thunderbirds spotted the Calgary Dinos 26 points on the road and somehow came within a whisker of winning. I wouldn't be a fan of a 3-5 team moving on, but have we witnessed the second chapter of probably another 3 chapters of the best rivalry in Canada?
Maybe Laval-Montreal has something to say about that statement, but man, is it close. This rivalry is white hot right now. It almost seemed like it was the fitting conclusion that UBC ended up in this Hardy Cup versus Calgary. Calgary exercised some of those demons from last year, and I'm sure Wayne Harris and that staff there is absolutely pumped about that. And for UBC, if you're coming out as the underdog on the road and you turn the ball over 5 times in the first half, my goodness, what are you thinking? So they did a great job of coming back to make this one a close one, but man, that was a sloppy effort by UBC. The one thing I noticed about this game, the level of physicality across the board, nothing dirty this time around, but the level of physicality across the board was excellent.
So Justin, were you surprised by that 26-point comeback by the UBC Thunderbirds at halftime? What a set of adjustments.
Yeah, I agree with you, Jim. I really wasn't, because I just believe Blake Nill is at the top of the chart in terms of being able to adjust in-game, and he showed it again. And those UBC Thunderbirds came oh so close to getting by the Calgary Dinos. Yet again, Blake Nill just seems to have this sort of magic elixir that comes around at playoff time. I, for one, thought it would be pretty unique to see a 3-5 team in a national semifinal.
And I gotta say, for that UBC staff, another phenomenal job done this year. They were short on bodies from day one this season, well short of what most CIS rosters carry. And I had one of the members of that coaching staff tell me that on one of their road trips this year, they were taking 10 guys that they hadn't planned on being active for any games this year on their road trip to Saskatchewan earlier this year. So a great job by UBC of making use of what they had and trying to cover up more so some of the pimples and unsightly parts of that roster that they did have as well.
Now let's go to our page 2. Last week it was the Danny Machocha to the Alouettes rumor. This week it's a story circulated by Herb Zurkowski of the Montreal Gazette, who is usually pretty spot on with these things, that the BC Lions have expressed an interest in Laval head coach Glenn Constantine. Add to that, the entire staff at Sherbrooke has been showing the door. What will the RSEQ look like with the potential of 3 Francophone head coach vacancies? I'll throw that to you, Justin.
Well, with all due respect to Herb Zurkowski, he's a veteran reporter, does a great job. I think the key word in his tweet there was interest. Wally Buono wants to continue coaching the BC Lions. He feels like he can make personnel decisions better because he's more in touch with the players, coaching them every single day. And I don't think it would be fair to Mark Washington, the defensive coordinator there with the BC Lions, to go out and get a Francophone head coach who doesn't have any CFL experience and make him the head coach. So those are a couple reasons why I don't think it makes sense for Constantine to go to BC as a head coach. I'm sure there was a little bit of interest and chatter, but I don't see it happening, not this year at least.
I have to agree with you on that point, Justin. I mean, holy culture shock. Glenn Constantine coming out here to Vancouver. That would be a really tough adjustment for him, not just for the club. And I gotta say, this isn't completely out of the blue. Glenn Constantine has been a guest coach under Wally Buono a couple times out here at training camps. And there's a guy who has the resume that might be able to move to the CFL, but you also gotta say, I think he probably has more resources at Laval than he would have as the BC Lions head coach. I don't really see the motive for Glenn Constantine to move to the pros and move to the BC Lions unless he's gotten to that stage in his coaching career where every coach seems to get at some point where he's just itching for that next challenge. But I gotta say, for Glenn Constantine, focus on this season because you just came out of your conference for the first time in 3 years. Maybe focus on getting that Vanier Cup first, then look at the next step. And I'm sure he is.
Now it's time for Weekend Warriors, and I'm going to go to the game that I called this weekend, UBC, Calgary, and the Hardy. And he's in his first year in the Can West, but Adam Sinagra is listed as a sophomore, and you can tell that Cégep training has obviously paid dividends. Talk about his arm, talk about his mechanics, but you also have to talk about his poise. On the late drive in the fourth quarter, converting 2 second and longs and essentially securing the win. No wonder why Calgary fought so hard in recruiting for this kid.
We'll head out east to the Q, and no, I wasn't calling this game, but there was a quarterback that shone in that one, and that was Hugo Richard. And I must say, after making some glib comments about that Hugo Richard-Sam Krown matchup this upcoming week, Hugo had a game. 28 for 44, 392 yards, 1 touchdown and 1 pick. Those last 2 numbers not exactly eye-popping, and he needs some polish finishing drives if Laval's going to keep moving this week. But man, what a great performance against a very, very strong Montreal defense. That's about as good of a number as a quarterback's put up against them in the last couple of years. A strong performance for Hugo Richard, who led Laval to the victory despite a 1-for-6 performance by their field goal kicker. Great job, Hugo.
Michael Neville, Laurier's first-year starter at quarterback, led an epic comeback for the ages down in London. 3 touchdown passes, all coming in the fourth quarter. 2 on third down, 1 on 3rd and 18 to start the rally for the Golden Hawks. Neville was poised and calm beyond his years to lead the Hawks all the way back to upset the Mustangs in London.
Honorable mention goes to Calgary defensive back Nick Stats, who was flying around with his 9.5 tackles, but he's not going to get an imaginary hat out of this. My weekend warrior is linebacker Jacob Jakubek, the interior man for the Dinos. 5 tackles, a scoop and score, an interception, and a pass breakup. This guy committed to York last year and then came back home. Boy, home is where the wins are.
I'll stick on the defensive side of the ball and going right back to the Laurier Golden Hawks. Linebacker Nakis Onyeka. He was huge all over the field, but made 3 big-time plays that were sort of overshadowed by what the offense did. Nakis Onyeka blocked an extra point after a Western touchdown in the third quarter that led to the game being tied at 40-40 and really helped the Hawks get over the hump and win this game. He forced the fumble on Alex Taylor that led to the game-tying touchdown, and then he had a sure tackle on a second down play to give the Laurier Golden Hawks offense the football back so they could get in range for the game-winning field goal. Nakis Onyeka came up large for the Hawks.
Wow, that typical Ontario bias. I'm going back out to Quebec, and the guy who probably had the most unique stat line this past weekend, Jonathan Breton-Robert of the Laval Rouge et Or. 10 receptions for 161 yards and a touchdown as a receiver, which is a big, big day again against that Montreal defense. And he threw for the game-winning touchdown on this beauty of a trick play from 3 yards out to give Laval the victory. Fantastic showing by JBR.
Gord with the RSEQ bias? I'm absolutely shocked.
Mais oui, mon frère.
Okay, I'm going to try some Mexican here for my final weekend warriors. Mucho grandes cojones on 2 offensive coordinators, 2 quality coaches.
Mike O'Shea?
No, not from 61 yards out. I'm talking about 2 OCs in the CIS. I'm talking Justin Ethier in Laval for running that crazy trick play to win the game for the Rouge et Or. And I'm also talking about Ryan Shahan of the Calgary Dinos, who prepared his rookie quarterback quite well for that Hardy Cup and also ran a tackle-eligible play to Ryan Sevier as he bumbled and rumbled and stumbled his way into the red zone at a key part of the game. Good work by both of those OCs. Coming up, X's and Olsen.
Krown Countdown U is supported by the Guelph Griffins. Agile, mobile, hostile.
109th Canadian Bowl, the West Shore Rebels versus the Saskatoon Hilltops. National championship on the line. The Hilltops lead 16-12 at the half, pick this one up in the third Q. The Rebels put a long drive together to open the second half, ending with Ashton McKinnon finding the end zone for the score to give the Rebels a 19-16 lead. That lead did not last long. Ensuing kickoff, Josh Uenchina receives the kick at the 5 and takes off. Makes a couple of moves, he's gonzo. Down the sidelines, going 105 to the house. The Hilltops take the lead 23-19. That play would deflate the BCFC champs as the Hilltops would pull away. Jared Andrechuk finds Logan Friesen for the major, and then late fourth, Andrechuk hits Jason Price deep for the TD, and the dagger The Saskatoon Hilltops, for the third year in a row, are the national champions, defeating the West Shore Rebels 37-25. For the first time in history, Notre Dame de Foix are Cégep Division I champs, defeating André Grasset 38-15 in the Ball d'Or. Notre Dame running back Luca Perrier was named player of the game, rushing for 150 yards. So let's go to the Yates Cup, where the guy behind me here was kind of a star in the booth as X's and Olsen breaks everything down.
This week, we're going to look at the anatomy of one of the greatest comebacks in Yates Cup history. Down by 21 points, the Laurier Golden Hawks come back to win on a last-second field goal. Let's take a look at three plays. The first one here is a huge one. Got the momentum going. Right here, you're going to see a nice little zone fake, okay, play action, get the ball back here, and you're going to have a double post concept with the streak on the outside, holds the safety. Michael Neville puts up an amazing throw, outside shoulder, and the receiver high points it to get the ball rolling. First touchdown is always key when you're coming back from 21. Let's roll it. Here it is, a little zone fake, gets back, post is taken, puts it up, and let's pause it right there. Right here, this receiver's covered. When you are down by 21, you need some players to make plays for you. We got Mr. Hall here going up and high pointing this ball exactly how we're supposed to do it. Makes a huge play, and now you got the momentum. The hardest one is the first one. Let's take a look at the play. Little push-up extension, gets his feet down, huge play. Now we're going to take a look at a miscue. Minute 29 left on the clock, and we got a fumble from one of the running backs from Western on a reverse. Tough break, aggressive play call. Let's take a look. So this is a huge gutsy call here, trying to close the game out. You've got second down and around 7 yards to go. Okay, so you need a chunk of yards here. We're going to have a sweep play here, and the unblocked backside defensive lineman is going to make a huge play. Let's roll this clip forward. We'll pause it, and we'll take a look at the anatomy. Right here, you've got the mesh here with the quarterback sweep, and let's pause it. Right here, they have a blitzing linebacker and the DN. Quarterback is assigned to the DN, and the offensive tackle misses the block on the blitzing linebacker. Coach is trying to take advantage of an over-aggressive defense here and put this game out of reach. The problem is it's a high risk, high reward. Right here, running back tries to toss the ball to the receiver who's coming around the corner. You can see this play is set up for big yardage, but unfortunately, they get a fumble. Let's roll it forward. Right here, running back tries to get the ball to receiver, and you've got a fumble. That is something that kills you in that situation. A minute 29 on the clock when that play happened. Gave the Laurier Golden Hawks some breath. Now let's take a look at one of the huge plays of the game that put them into field goal range to win it. So now Coach takes a real good gamble here. We've got a nice little zone read. We're going to have down blocks across the inside. We're going to seal on the backside on this guy. Quarterback's got boot, and it's a simple zone read concept that winds back to the backside. Now, everybody in this situation is thinking pass. They need about 30, 35 yards to get a legitimate chance at a field goal. But Coach falls, calls a run, goes to the strength of his team, and this is what you get. Quick mesh. Levondre Gordon continues his huge game, breaks it outside, fighting for extra yards, two hands on the football. Right there, you can see the adulation on the Laurier Golden Hawks sidelines. They know they're in field goal range. That was the difference. Series after series, they made huge plays, and now they find themselves in the semifinals.
Okay, Triple W2K are what we want to know, and we just came off 3 championship games, which were all decided by 3 points, one decided by 3 touchdowns. But should this be another signal, and I know Justin Dunk wanted me to ask this, should this be another signal that we should have interlock in this country? And because, Justin, you wanted me to ask it, you get to answer the question.
Yes, Jim. This only further shows that this Canadian University football game played across the country deserves more exposure, and the way to get that is having the elite programs play more often. We have to have the best brand of football being showcased, and it's proven. If you look back at the competitive Vanier Cups, especially in 2011 and even last year, that people will tune in to watch a high-level product of Canadian university football. Let's get together. Let's have an open communication until we figure out a way to get a national interlock going every single year.
And I'm going to look at it from the on-the-field perspective. There's an old saying, familiarity breeds contempt. One of the reasons, in fact, I would argue the main reason why Conference Championship Week's always the best is that you've got teams that are familiar with each other, they know each other's schemes, so it's more of a chess match, and they legitimately dislike each other. You better believe Laurier legitimately dislikes Western. You better believe Calgary legitimately dislikes UBC. Montreal Laval's been talked to death, and even out in the AUS, you'd better believe that Mount Allison and St. FX legitimately dislike each other as well. That's what leads to these passionate, hard-hitting, and crazy often games. And that's what you can build by pitting some of the top teams against each other. You match that vitriol with skill.
So we got 4 teams left. Who is your favorite?
My favorite's got to be the Calgary Dinos. That was an impressive performance, aside from that second half slide a little bit. Now, they also get the added advantage of having probably the easiest draw this upcoming week, as not only do they host, they also host the AUS crossover. And with all due respect to St. FX, they're not Laval likely, and they are not Laurier likely. So Calgary gets the benefit of the draw, and I think that they'll be rolling going into the national championship game, and they've got to be my favorite, Jim.
Possibly the easiest crossover, Gord. It's got to be the easiest crossover, with all due respect to the AUS. I know Tyvon Cook, or the Gunslinger, as he's known on Twitter, put together a great season, but I see Calgary coming out of the West. As for who I see as a favorite, maybe this is a bit of a cop-out, but whoever comes out of this Laurier-Laval game, and yes, I do think the Golden Hawks have a legitimate chance to win this football game. Case in point, they played Montreal in the preseason very tightly, so they know how to play this Quebec brand of football. Whoever comes out of that game, I believe, is a favorite to win the Vanier Cup.
So that will do it for everyone here at Krown Countdown U as we head towards the bowl games. Hopefully we'll get as much entertainment out of those as we did out of the conference championships. But for now, if you're in those towns, let's get out to the game.